Okay, however which way we want to look at it, I think there's something that we need to accept, which is common sense isn't common. Nowadays, it feels like a privilege and not everyone has it, and people are being told that they should be accepted for not having it. But, fortunately, what I'm going to talk about on this episode isn't anything to do with common sense per se. It's actually to do with relationships. Those that are in them and those that are actually trying to get into them and are mostly failing. But before I get into any of that, I want us to discuss something a little bit more questionable, which is apparently, according to a recent report, only 3% of Kenyans earn a monthly salary of above 50,000 Kenya shillings. 50,000. Only 3% do 50,001 plus? I don't know. This sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
Get ready for the battle of the sexes.
Now, for the record, I just want to start by saying that I am not pro-government. I have not been a fan of how the government has been screwing us lately. And as someone that earns a salary and sees a lot of that shit get eaten off by a bunch of stuff that we don't really get too much service for, it actually really sucks. But even with that said, I still don't think that only 3% of Kenyans earn a monthly salary of 50,000 and above. Like, it has to be more than that. It definitely has to be. But anyways, let me just read the entire thing. So it says, and I quote, "The research firm Trends and Insights for Africa, aka TIFA, conducted a survey to determine the sources of income for Kenyans. The survey was conducted through phone call interviews with 1,500 respondents from across the country. 38% of Kenyans do not have a monthly income. According to the report, 12% of Kenyans earn less than 5,000, 12% of respondents earned between 5,000 and 10,000 shillings, while 13% earned between 10,000 and 20,000 shillings. 10% earned between 20,000 and 50,000 shillings per month, while 11% are unsure. In terms of Kenyan employment, nearly one-third of those who are currently unemployed, or at least 31%, have never worked, while 8% have worked in the past. 29% are self-employed, while 14% are casual laborers or part-time. 11% are employed full-time, while 4% are employed part-time. In the meantime, 1% of respondents are retired without pension, while 1% are retired with a pension. Regarding savings capacity, the survey revealed that just over one quarter, or 28%, of those earning below 5,000 reported being able to save. End quote. Okay, now here's my thing. 1,500 people were interviewed for this entire thing. And I honestly feel like that 1,500 people was a very small sample size compared to close to 50 million Kenyans. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'd have probably expected 10,000, 50,000 people. And I'd actually suspect that a good chunk of them were probably not from a very high earning part of society. Because I remember a 2020 study by, I think it was the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, had stated that I think it was only 3% of Kenyans who had accounts with savings of 100,000 bob or more. And even within that 3%, a lot of those people are old people and all, but still, you can't tell me that the only people that manage to have that amount of money in the bank are people who are making 50,000 or more. Like, if you said 50,000 in disposable income or more as part of the 3%, that would make more sense. But 50,000 bob, like gross monthly earnings, that one's very, very hard to actually state that it's only 3% of Kenyans that make more than that. I personally believe that that's closer to probably 10 to 15% of Kenyans, and 3%, or you can even say 5%, do 150k or more as a monthly salary. Otherwise, most of the shit that we're doing out here is incredibly unaffordable. Because I can probably get into how a lot of people are spending money out here over the weekends, but because I don't have time to do that and I need to let the instrumental roll through, I'm just gonna finish it off by saying, welcome to Breakdown on West Side, your number one breakdown podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man with 99 problems. Money is 98 of them, and the last one I usually leave it up to chance. He's a man who likes his women the same exact way he likes his yogurt. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Battle of the Sexes, our weekly love, sex, and relationships show where I get to talk about money, I get to talk about relationships. Sometimes people's talking stages are pointed out, but normally I like to come through with a conclusion. Now, if you do agree with it, if you don't agree with it, if you feel like giving feedback or you want to suggest a topic that we should discuss or I should discuss, then the place to hit me up at on IG, on Facebook, it is at Breaktime, on my side, on Twitter. You can slide into my personal DMs, which is at BagakaTheD. I am going to work on getting a Threads account since people have just joined Threads by the numbers. And, we can also connect there and talk as well. And maybe I might even move Tweet Street and include Threads as well, since people are talking so much there anyways. But all that said and done, a massive thank you to each and every one of you that has been listening to this podcast from the beginning, whether you just popped by, even the people that just started listening recently, and the people that just listened to an episode here and there. I appreciate you. A nice rating and or review or a subscription or a follow, depending on what site, what platform you're using, would be highly appreciated. Helps me to go up the charts and get recommended to more people. And more people equals more topics equals more fun. Now, with all that said and done, I do want to get into the main topic of today, but before we do that, I need to address two things. First one being, I was actually supposed to have gone on break at the end of last week, but I sort of got carried away by other things and I forgot. So this week is going to be the last two episodes, then I go on break. I'm going to be doing the Raw Zone episodes, the shorter episodes, at least since now I don't give them a full-on name. And, no instrumentals, minimal editing, usually just me going all in and talking about one particular topic, and that's normally just about it. Now, that said and done, I do want us to move on, and before we get to the main topic, we need to talk about this Keke Palmer story that made headlines for like a bunch of people online last week. Because I feel like a lot of people were being very polarized by it, even though the reality of it was that there wasn't too much to talk about. And for those of y'all that would like a little bit of context, sometime around Wednesday, Thursday of last week, Keke Palmer decided to go for an Usher concert, and she posted up some pictures, and her boyfriend publicly shamed her for how she was dressed, because she had a dress that had some very, very nice see-through bits there, which showed a little bit of cleavage and, some booty here and there. And that spawned some online uproar where people actually became polarized about the entire thing. And it actually became an actual battle of the sexes because most guys were leaning towards the man, or at least Keke's boyfriend, while the babes were leaning towards Keke's side. For the most part, that was mostly how it was, because a lot of the women were actually on Keke's side and they're talking about, this is a celebrity, this is how they usually dress, or why is her dressing the man's choice, isn't it her body, why is he policing her body like that and her dressing choices, shouldn't she be allowed to do that shit, she's a superstar, she should be allowed to do whatever the fuck she wants, blah blah blah. And to be very honest, before I say anything on it, I honestly just feel like both of them were in the wrong for this. And for the lowest hanging fruit, I'll go and I'll start by attacking Keke. Like, you could have just listened to your mans and changed it. Like, you pretty much decided to cause a tiff in your relationship over a dress. And then the boyfriend, I feel sorry for him to a certain degree, because why the fuck would you decide to start airing your shit out on social media? Like, you're in a relationship with someone and you have a problem with them, sort it out with them. Bringing it to social media to publicly shame them, I think, was probably a very low move. It's not something that I would do. I don't think it's something that a lot of guys would do. But let me sort of get into all of this because I might as well. And to be honest, I feel like most of the babes that were busy complaining about this shit, and I'll even quote what a married guy that I follow on Twitter was saying, most of these babes were saying a lot of the shit that they were saying about Keke Palmer and standing with Keke Palmer because they were single. Like, most of these babes are all talking about how, a man can't police my body, I could never let a man tell me how to dress, it's my choice, it's my body, why is it his problem? And for the most part, like, I was reading all of those things and I'm like, the main reason y'all are saying this shit is because y'all aren't in relationships. Because when you're in a relationship with a guy, and more so a very firm, very secure dude, you find that they actually do tend to just tell you straight up, I don't like how that dress looks on you, or they will look at you dressing probably in a scanty way, and they'll tell you that they're not comfortable with how you're dressing and probably even ask you to change. Now, of course, you can choose to not listen to them, but at the end of the day, the way us guys look at it is when we're in a relationship with you, or you're in a relationship with us, whichever way you look at it, you are a representation of us. Like, you and how you look and how you dress and how you act is a representation in some direct way of me as a person, because you represent me and who I am and what I hold dear and shit like that. So if you are scantily dressed, if you are dressing in a ratchet manner, then it comes back to me as I only go for ratchet babes, or my babes are very ratchet, which does not abode well, and we will be uncomfortable with that shit. If your man isn't comfortable with you because you guys are in some long-term thing, you guys are settling down, you do not need to dress scantily or dress in a provocative manner, because you already have your man's. Hell, you even have a kid. You don't need to do it for the world to see your parts. Then why do it? You know, why do it? Because you know very well, if you're going to the club, babes are going to dress scantily because, you know, attracting dudes' attention and shit. They will dress official when they're going to the office, and they'll cover up some bits because they know very well that they're going to an office and they need to be professional and look professional, and they don't just want to be looked at as some sort of a sex object by other people in the office, more so men, and they will dress accordingly to that. So if you're going for a concert, but you're just going to have fun with your friends, and you're going to see an artist that you know and you like, and you're not really trying to attract dudes' attention, then why show so much skin? Like, that's pretty much just the argument that us guys usually like to put out there. But unfortunately, because as babes out here saying that it's my dress, my choice, I still let Coco do it and defended her and everything, you kind of just have to let them do what they want to do. And you just remind them that, yes, you're saying this, but you're saying this because you're single. Once you get into a relationship with a man and it's something that's supposed to be long term, dude will definitely start to police that shit, and best believe you will actually respond to what it is that he is saying, because you do not want to risk your entire relationship over one outfit. But then again, I might be wrong about this shit, but I am going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic. Now, while I was on Reddit a couple of days ago, there was something interesting that hit me, at least after looking at the one post and remembering the many other posts that I've spoken about the same. As usual, the Reddit Kenya page, and it was someone by the username of Polo Dicky, and they were busy talking about so many failed talking stages. Now, I'm going to read what it is that they said, and then I'm gonna get into it, and, you know, of course, I'll probably try and translate a couple of things that have been thrown around in Swahili. So, it says, and I quote, "Just a quick for singles. Are you trying to date? If so, what's your experience on talking stages? Because for me, nowadays, I get so tired so quickly, and I go back to my personal life." End quote. Now, having read this, and to be very honest, when I kind of look at something as initial as talking stages, it does kind of show the problems that come in at the initial stage of trying to date someone. Because there's a lot of people nowadays that are having issues with talking stages. And it's something that I've not only read about on Reddit or on Twitter, it's something that I even hear my own female friends telling me about in real life. And to be quite honest, when I thought about it for a little bit, it actually kind of became clear to me, because I remember I did the episode where there was a guy from the States that had come and he had spent a lot of time in Kenya, and he was talking about how beautiful Kenyan women are, and he was talking about how Kenyan men aren't any real competition for him. And he was talking about how they're not, that well dressed. They don't go out and, try to pick up babes nicely dressed and everything. They're usually just dressed in a very casual, very simplistic way, and they all kind of look the same and shit. Okay, maybe I've added a couple more bits here and there, but you kind of get my point. He was sort of alluding to that. And to be very honest, it was something that I can probably say not only affects just the Kenyan guys, because it also affects the Kenyan babes as well, because, it's actually a combined issue. But to be very honest, it mostly comes down to the fact that a lot of people aren't actually that interesting today. And actually, to sort of say this in a little bit of a better way, I'll actually refer to something that a friend of mine told me a couple of weeks back. After her being celibate for like a year and ditching alcohol and everything, she actually just straight up told me at one point in time, when I asked her about her experience, and said, if you take away the alcohol and the sex, a lot of people are actually very, very boring, and they have nothing to offer. And to be very honest, that shit was probably the realest information that I had gotten. I guess maybe because I don't drink, but more so because a lot of times when you kind of think about it, and you kind of think about a lot of us young people right now, besides that, there's not that much that a lot of us really do. And mind you, this babe wasn't actually saying this about Kenyan guys because she hadn't been in Kenya in like 3 years. She was actually talking about her experience with South African dudes because she had gone on a couple of dates with South African dudes while she was celibate, blah, blah, blah. But still, when I kind of think about it, it is roughly about the same issue here. And hell, I've sort of kind of tested it to a certain extent, and it is actually something that I have noticed. Like, to be very honest, there's not that many people that you can say are uniquely interesting enough that you can enjoy their company for an entire day, especially when you take away the booze. And when you're looking at dating, whether or not you include the booze, if you take away the sex, there's a lot that people do not have to really give. Because nowadays, for some reason, it's almost like everyone is trying to ensure that they bang someone within like the first 1 to 3 dates that they've had with them. By the time they're meeting up the third time, there's a pretty good chance that this person just wants to lay pipe. And you can blame this on the dudes or you can blame this on the babes, but either way, it is something that we actually do need to admit. And as we do that, maybe we should also ask ourselves why. Because when you kind of think about it, if you look at most people nowadays, it's like there's so many people that are just trying to get to the babe, they're trying to get to the partner, they're trying to get to the dude, and there's not that much that's being invested beyond what you'd probably call the criticals. Because babes are trying to look good, babes are trying to look like they're living the good life so that they can attract niggas that, you know, can finance it and live the good life and shit like that. But even when you look at the guys, it's pretty much the same thing. Guys are just trying to make sure that they're at a certain level financially, that they're at a certain level as people, where it's like they know that they can afford to do certain things and they can go out and they can chill with people and they can pay for booze. But when you actually look at, you know, the deeper understandings and like the other things that people can be, you find that there's a lot of people that are quite lacking. And this is something that I notice a lot with, I guess, maybe Nairobians or just Kenyans in general, or just people in general of our generation. You know, whether you're looking at millennials or Gen Zs, people just don't have that much besides what it is that they have that they know can attract the other mate, which sort of got me into thinking about it. And like, it's almost like we as people have pretty much only gotten the technical requirements for a relationship. And besides that, there's not that much else. Because look at it like this. Dudes nowadays are being told, you know what? Don't worry about these babes. Just focus on getting the money. The babes will come. Dudes they focus on getting the money so much that even though they get the babes, there's not that much else that they have to offer besides paying for shit. Okay? And, you know, just telling the babe to come and chill. And, you know, ensuring that they look good so that other babes can know that these are guys that can pay for shit. All right. Then you look at babes, there's a whole beauty look. There's the whole making sure that, you know, they're looking amazing such that a guy would want to be with them. And, you know, they'll dress in a way that will show body parts that make them look amazing. But beyond that, how much else are they really trying to give? Yes, maybe it's pussy, but beyond that, what else? Like, you realize that there's a lot of people that are very, very shallow out here. And it's almost like people just focused so much on getting the technical requirements for a relationship or the technical requirements to be attractive to a mate that they ended up forgetting about every single other thing. And as such, because they didn't focus on any other thing or, you know, much else, they pretty much end up being good at securing a partner, but not particularly good in retaining one. And a big part of the reason why they only get to a point where they can secure one for like a very short stint of time is also because we've highly over prioritized the value of sex. Like, if you actually really, really look at it, there's a lot of people nowadays that are ensuring that they bang within the first like 3 or 4 dates. And some people are already ready to do it even in the very first date. And you know, suddenly you want this person because you think they're so good, or you want to check for sexual compatibility or some shit, or you believe that someone's hot enough so you're willing to give it up, or you're willing to give them the D or some shit. And that's something that you just see happen time and time and time again, which is why a shit ton of dating apps nowadays are mostly just used for sex. Simple as that. And you kind of have to ask yourself why it is a lot of us have over-prioritized sex, because it's not like our parents and their parents before used to have, the kind of sex that we're having with multiple people right now, but they managed to get partners, and some of them got very loving, very great partners. Of course, there were some shit examples along the way, but people could secure partners and have them for decades, and that was before sex, before marriage was actually a thing. But now that it's a thing, people are not getting married as such. People are not getting into long-term relationships. Hell, people are barely able to maintain the relationships that they have beyond, say, 4 to 6 months. And to be very honest, that kind of does paint a not so nice picture, because it's not like people are growing any younger. It's not like there's too many people that are trying to change the way that they're dating and how they're selecting their partners and shit. So you're finding that people are pretty much going around the same circles, dealing with the same kinds of babes and the same kinds of dudes that are annoying them, or, they're doing the same exact tactics with them, and then they're getting pissed off because now this guy doesn't want to stay with them past a certain period, or this guy's catching feelings but they don't want to commit, or this babe is such a good shag, or she seems like such a nice babe but she's just not girlfriend material, which is a much lower threshold than wife material itself. And to kind of conclude all of this, I do feel like as young people, or at least as millennials, as Gen Zs, if you're a part of that, and essentially if you're in the dating market, I feel like we all need to at least try and become a little bit more interesting as people and move beyond the 3 or is it 4-pronged life where it's like work, home, and going to the club and maybe chilling with friends here and there. Because there's a lot of people that are just moving around that cycle and they're unable to secure good partners because they're not particularly interesting, and there's nothing beyond that part of their lives which can really show that they have that much substance. Because to be very honest, like, if you decide to take away the clubs, if you decide to take away the shagging all day, or a lot of the shagging that people are doing, and you decide to take 2 people who might have even just recently gotten into a relationship and you put them at a cafe for breakfast with coffee, and you just leave them as is and you even take the phones away, how many people do you think can actually retain a 15-minute conversation with their supposed partner or the person that they want to be with? How many of them can retain a 30-minute conversation? How many people can retain a 1-hour conversation with that person that they're with? Like, will it actually be that easy to do, or will they have issues doing it? Because at the end of the day, you realize that a lot of people, even with partners, actually don't do that much. Because if your partner is coming to spend the weekend with you, you're finding that people will meet up, they might probably get a bite to eat, and then they'll go out. They'll come back to the house, probably shag a little bit, sleep, wake up, cuddle, maybe watch a little bit of Netflix, get some food. They'll probably be called for something that's happening, which involves going to a club later on, or will involve chilling with the homies and getting drinks at some point. So eventually they go back home, probably chill, maybe shag a little bit again, and then the following day, they're probably either nursing hangovers, getting food, or mostly just chilling in the house and watching Netflix. And you ask these people the combined total amount of time that they've actually spent interacting and conversing with each other, and you realize that it's actually not that much. Because when you take away the food, it's mostly just going to the club, shagging, and maybe watching a little bit of Netflix here and there, and that's it. So how exactly do you think you're going to have a quality partner that you can have quality time with if most of that time is not being spent actually interacting with each other and communicating? Like, at the end of the day, I do believe that communication is key, but even before you get to the point where you have a partner, like, broaden your horizon and learn a couple more things. Try and become as interesting of a person as possible and learn a few things. I tend to think that if you do know a little bit more here and there about a few things, if you have gone through a little bit of life experiences that don't involve just going to the office, going to the club, and going to the house, then you'll definitely have a couple more stories here and there, which will actually make you seem like more interesting of a person and could move you beyond the talking stage towards getting into a relationship a lot faster, but also staying in a relationship a lot more, because you're not just all about going to a club, going to work, chilling in the house, and shagging. Although, then again, Considering that I am single and I'm making a lot of this noise, maybe I might be wrong about this. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, on Facebook. It is at Breakdown on my side. On Twitter, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end of this episode and of this season. The shortened episodes begin next week, and I will catch you guys on the next break.